What I know for sure is that speaking your truth is the most powerful tool we all have.
I've had rainbows in my clouds. And the thing to do, it seems to me, is to prepare yourself so that you can be a rainbow in somebody else's cloud.
We all really, really love one another. Deep down, we all love one another, and we need to get back to that.
Hi, welcome to the Authentically You podcast. I'm Dr. Julie Ducharme. Really excited to be back after taking a bit of a hiatus during COVID to spend time with my family and kind of rethink businesses, as many of you might have been doing. Some of mine were shut down, and so we were getting very creative here on how to approach that. And I thought, hey, why I'm in the middle of COVID, let me just start another company because I love to torture myself. So it's been a really interesting roller coaster, but something that really gives me inspiration and motivation is talking to fellow colleagues and friends about their authentic path and what they've done to get to where they're at and what they're currently doing. Because I think we need so much of this right now is the inspiration from other people and what they're doing. So I'm really excited to bring Jillian on the show. Jillian, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, and we've got a chance. Has it been a year, 2 years now that we've been working together? I think time flies. I'm trying to remember back to.
I think it's been over 2 years.
Oh my gosh, it's sure. It's so Jillian and I have got a chance to do Lead and Empower Her conference. She talks together, and also get to work with her husband Brent on several projects. And so it's really wonderful to have not only Jillian as a colleague but also a friend. And I love what she's doing. In fact, we were just talking about things I didn't know that she was doing that I should have known. I should have called her. So we're going to talk about that in the podcast. And so, Jillian, you are a classically trained Feng Shui expert. And I would love for you to tell our listeners about your journey and how you got to this point.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I was a little bit of an interesting kid. I was born and raised in Ohio. My dad was in the Air Force and he was a single parent. And once upon a time, we moved into the house I grew up in. And I vividly remember as a kid, like running up the stairs and picking my room. And there was 5 rooms to choose from because it was kind of a big house. And I found a pink room and I dashed to it and I got to it before my sister did and I declared it mine. As any kid who is that age will pick a pink room. And so I grabbed that room for myself, and that's really where I grew up. And that room really shaped my formative years because I realized as a kid that I was a little bit different and I wasn't into the same things that most people were into. I was into like tarot cards and alternative stuff and herbs and horoscopes. And one of the things that led me to is just feeling my way around life. And I would move my furniture around in my room just because I wanted to rearrange my furniture, but I didn't really know what I was doing as a kid. I was just sort of tapping into energy that felt good. And that looking back on that, I see how important that has been to my life, because looking at life through that room gave me a foundation for how to see and help people in the future. From that formative experience, I got into Reiki, energy healing, and as an adult, I moved around a lot with my husband, and I started reading on things like interior design, and I got a couple books on Vastu and Feng Shui, and I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I knew that I wanted to give it a shot. Mm-hmm. And one of the houses that we moved into in Pennsylvania, big house, there was like rooms that there was a room that we didn't even use, that we were like saving, and it was kind of empty, and we never really went into it. I didn't know why. And I had a lot of success in business in that house. And that led me to moving up in the company, and the company kind of tapped me on the shoulder and said, let's move you across the country and let's have you open a branch, and we want to support you. And I thought I was going to be in like this corporate path with this company. Mm-hmm. And I moved from Pittsburgh to Phoenix, Arizona, and we moved into our house, and very quickly things started to fall apart. The short version of that story is that I was sort of like, quote, asked to step down from my role after things started to go south very quickly. And I was shocked because I thought I was going to be on a corporate path.
Yeah.
And I stepped down from my role and I stayed at the company and I did something that I sort of entry-level position that I had been doing for a really long time. That is really the catalyst of what led me to rethink what I was doing and what was important to me, where my heart was, how I wanted to be in the world. There are people who are hearing this who have gone through similar situations where they thought they were going to go on a path and it didn't work out that way.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah. I was just going to say, like, I resonate with you with that because, I definitely had something similar happen to me. And you kind of start to really rethink everything when that moment happens because you're like, wait, what? This was the plan. I thought this. And then, I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I kind of felt like a failure. I was like, great, I totally screwed up my chance. How am I going to go back to do this, or how am I going to get back there? And so it really resonates with me to hear that, because even though it sounds like a failure, I think it was really a blessing in disguise.
It was absolutely a blessing in disguise because it gave me the freedom to explore the things that I wanted in life. And I had kind of decided how I wanted my life to be 10 years before that. And this gave me sort of the springboard to get to where I am today. And because of those emotional feelings I was having, I asked for help. I was looking around going, what happened? I was sort of looking at my shoulder and like trying to figure out how did this happen? Because I thought I was putting things together and it all started to crumble. So I called a Feng Shui practitioner because I thought there's got to be something wrong with this house. I moved into this house and it fell apart. There's got to be something wrong with this house. So I thought I was hiring somebody to do like low budget interior design. And I got such a different experience out of it. She came, she helped me understand the stuff that I was reading in books that didn't make sense to me. And she gave me a long list of things to do. And I did all of them because I'm very task oriented. And it was a little bit like a zipper and everything just kind of went and the penny dropped. Bing! And when the penny dropped, the energy started to feel better. I started to feel more secure, more confident. Things started going right for me at work. I was still with this company. I started to feel supported by my supervisor. I was connecting with my spouse. I started to sort of feel like I was on more solid ground again, which was amazing. It didn't take very long either. And I was like, well, this is amazing. If I can do this just from what this woman told me, then I can give this to other people and I want to study. So I was like, this is, and it felt like a push from the universe. Like, this is the direction to go in. And it felt so right. And it felt, it made me feel like I had an opportunity to shape my future because I was able to connect with the energy within my home so I could have better results.
So can I ask you a little bit about this for those who may be really new to Feng Shui, is when you talk about moving around, furniture and energy, can you go a little more in depth about what that is for people who are thinking, what does she mean? She moved this around and everything.
What is she talking about?
Yeah, it all fell into place because people are probably thinking, how do I do that? I need to understand more. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. We should talk a little bit about what Feng Shui is. So to me, Feng Shui is a support system for our lives. Feng Shui is the Chinese art and science of bringing balance and harmony to a space in order to connect with the invisible forces, the energetic forces that are around us and align with them favorably. So when we are in an environment that is supporting us, it's easier for us to attain things that we want in life, such as well-being, health, wealth, happiness, love, relationships, these common things that people want. And so to me, using Feng Shui is a way of connecting with the natural forces of the world so that we can get more of what we want.
Have you ever walked into
and the way
house?
I like to think of
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just curious, have you ever walked into a house and just been like chills, like, ooh, this is bad, like really negative?
Sure. Absolutely. This is why people look at tons of homes before they buy one, because they'll walk in and they'll go, oh, this feels great. There's something about the person, they're in the actual human being, connecting with the energy in that space that they resonate with. It's a little bit like tuning your radio dial to a station that you like listening to the music. If you tune in, then you can hear the music. If you're scrolling through stations, you might get a lot of static. But when you tune into something that is in alignment, you can actually hear the music. And that's very much about what Feng Shui relates to, the timing of a person in a space.
Okay.
So to answer your question, when we appropriately align the person with the energy in the space, and that can mean moving furniture around, it can mean using a different room, it can mean applying the right timing, all of that together can light up the results, light up the energy, and make things much clearer. It's a little bit like flipping a circuit, electrical circuit. When you flip the light switch on, you've connected the circuit and everything gets brighter. That's
Okay.
very much what Feng Shui is.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And thank you for explaining that. Because I've heard that word for years thrown around, but I never really knew the depth of it and what it meant, and when you talk about energy and moving stuff and connecting, I've definitely walked into places before where I guess you could say it's bad energy, right? Where you kind of get like the hair standing out at the back of your neck and you're just like, oh, I just don't like how it feels here. And then I've walked into places where I've felt very welcome and just like happy. And it's like, wow, I love this. It's just such a great place. And so I guess you could relate that to the energy in the room that you're talking about.
Exactly. I completely agree with you. And another point to that is things can be beautiful and look aesthetically pleasing and still not feel right energetically. So with Feng Shui, there's a lot of people who focus on aesthetics. In my practice, I'm working with the energetics because I want each person to make whatever they think is pretty, I want it to be pretty to them. In my practice, I'm not working with trinkets and symbols and tchotchkes and things like that. If they worked, they would be everywhere all the time. In my practice, that's not what I'm doing. I'm really customizing the alignment with the people and the space through time to really brighten that experience. And what I found is that people are just so empowered and sometimes amazed because they've been living without it. And then when they're living with it, they're just like, wow, this is amazing. So I think that if someone wants to feel empowered in their life, they want to feel a sense of wellness, they should consider the significance of their home environment.
Yeah. Well, and we were talking off mic and I can give the vague description of this, but I had some serious stress happening in my life during COVID. Of course, who didn't, right? We all for the last 6 to 7 months, I'm sure have had some type of stress. But I had some stress dealing with my business. Extreme stress, in fact, that I was so stressed out. My blood pressure, which is always 120/70, even when I had children, always 120/70, always, was like in the 200s. It was high, super high, like heart attack. And you were saying to me off mic, like, Julie, why didn't you let me know? There's things we could do. And I was like, I had no idea there were things you could do for me to help me with that. Can we talk a little bit about, let's say people are extremely stressed from COVID, their businesses are shut down. There's just a lot of craziness that's been going on in our country for the last 8 months. What are some things that you said that you could have shared with me about how that could help me in my moment of real stress?
Such a fabulous question. So Feng Shui addresses all of the things that relate to the human experience, whether it's health, wealth, relationships, business, visibility, fame, all of those things. So typically people come for Feng Shui when there's a problem. And often it's when it's a big problem. It can be, God forbid, a divorce, a major illness, something disastrous happens in business, or there could be something even more significant. There could be a private issue that people don't want to air to the public, which is kind of what you said. Like, I was going through this thing and I didn't know I could talk to people about it. I didn't even know what to say because you're so in the thick of it, you can't see how to get out of it.
Yeah.
So with Feng Shui, we can look at a number of different factors, starting with a person's individual human energy, the energy that you're born with when you're the year, month, and day, the hour that you're born, makes a chart called a 4 Pillars of Destiny chart. So we can look at your chart to see if there are some energetic influences that are sort of hitting your personal energy that could be adjusted. Then the next thing that we can do is look at the house and see, are you aligned with the most favorable energy in the house? And does it need to be adjusted for the year? So your house has sort of like a birth chart. When you move in, you bring your energy with you and you sort of stamp it with an energy map. And so that's one set of factors. The next set of factors are that we have energy that moves on a very specific and predictable pattern every year. So for you, it can be helpful to tweak year to year favorable alignment based on the visiting energy that's coming to your home. So when you're going through a situation like that, it can be very helpful to know that you are using an office or a room that has supportive energy for you. It can mean perhaps making an adjustment to a bed because you spend a lot of time sleeping and we want you to get sleep so you can think clearly. It could mean adjusting something that's going on in the kitchen. These are all some of the factors that we look at in classical Feng Shui. Okay. People with Feng Shui want the whole enchilada. They want everything to be amazing all the time. And that's not real, because if you're not experiencing growth, then you're dead. So we all experience this challenge in life. The goal is to use Feng Shui so that you can tap into these natural forces that are supportive to you and have results that are getting you closer to where you want to go in a more smooth pattern. So everyone wants the whole enchilada, but we can't always have it. Sometimes all we get are the nachos. You might live in an apartment, or you might live in a small space where you don't have a lot of options. So we really have small things that we can take a look at: a door, a bed, a home office. And by tweaking these things over time, you can start to feel the environment supporting you so that you can have a greater sense of well-being in your life and even more prosperity, more vibrant energy around you so that you have resources to help you.
And are there places that might be better than others? So for example, I live out here in the water and I find quite a bit of calm and sereneness out here. I mean, my getaway is going to my backyard, getting on my kayak, paddleboarding. I just find a lot of just joy and happiness and positiveness in that. And so are there some environments that are better than others, or can all be adjusted? Like, if I was in, and nothing against anyone in Alaska with a lot of snow, but if I'm in Alaska stuck in the snow where it, the sun stays out like 12 hours or 13 hours a day, is there better places that you could say, it's great if you're here, if you're here, we can work with it. But, is there anything like that with when you work with this?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I help people with is new home selection. It's super common to look at the feng shui of a space when you're analyzing a property before you have to buy it and then run around fixing issues later. Yeah. So that is certainly something that we can take a look at, because your individual energy may resonate with the element of water better than, say, a dry earth environment. Like I live in Phoenix. You might not want to live here because it's a pretty dry earth environment. If you thrive on the water, you've obviously already attuned to and resonate with being there. And good for you.
Yeah. Well, and I was just going to say, like, even from a little kid, we lived inland. We were about 3 hours from the beach, but like every time we went to the beach, all I thought about was living there someday, because I felt such a connection when I was there. So I think that's really interesting, because like you said, you can thrive where you feel, best at, and I was, sometimes people tell me like, oh, I hate the beach. And I'm like, I can't understand that. What do you mean you hate the beach? What do you mean? But I think that's really interesting. So one of the services, let's talk a little bit about your services that you offer, because I think people also, I didn't know until I met you that there were, trained Feng Shui experts that actually, have services of things that they offer. And so let's talk about that. You talked about helping people find their homes and also coming into homes. And I don't want to steal your thunder. So tell our listeners a little bit about that and how they could get involved with you. If you're listening to this and you're resonating with it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is me. Like, Jillian, what do I do next? What do they do next?
So it kind of depends on what's going on, because all of my services are completely customized to the situation being presented by the client. So residential feng shui is typically the most popular. I do also offer business feng shui for small businesses because you want to look at the home and the business together, because both of those spaces have your energy if you're a business owner, especially if you're off-site. If you have a home office, definitely want to make sure that you are looking at a residential consultation so you can align with favorable energy in your home. I also offer Chinese astrology analysis, which is called the 4 Pillars of Destiny, or Batzi. And that is a really fun and really interesting experience to have a reading so that you can understand yourself better, see where your opportunities are, get some questions answered. It's lovely to look back and say, what happened to this relationship? What happened when I was going through this situation in my life? How can I adjust if I'm going to experience that kind of energy in the future? So that's a really interesting and a great gift, by the way, if you are looking for a creative, interesting gift for the holidays. These readings can be done remotely, and it's really fun for people, especially if they have a life question that they're coming with, like trying to understand their path forward. I also offer auspicious date selection, which is extremely valuable. Feng Shui is location, location, location. Date selection is timing is everything. So when you put together Feng Shui with date selection, then you can really start to see the pieces come together in your favor in a much more vibrant way. Those are just a few of the things that I do. And I also teach. I mentor other practitioners who are interested in classical feng shui. And coming up here in a few weeks, I'm going to be having a class so that people can learn about how to apply some of the basic feng shui systems and fundamental concepts right away in their own homes. Because I think people are hungry for this right now. I think that
Oh yeah, we're
like
all
you were
working.
saying,
I mean,
been stressful.
yeah, things are stressful. I mean, I started working remotely a while ago, so I've had an office, but there's lots of funny Facebook videos out right now. People who like makeshifted, their kids' play toy area into their office, like just really comical things out there. And I see these things, I start laughing, and I think to myself, but no, probably they are. I mean, we have a little joke in our house here. Thankfully, my children are back in school, but when they weren't, like I literally had a different person in every room of the house trying to Zoom and, trying to figure out, and here I'm working and I've lost my office because I've got children working in it. And I'm on some like random chair in my bedroom in the corner, totally uncomfortable trying to work, And so I know I'm not the only one doing that.
No, you're not.
I know that I only have 2 children. God bless all you people with 4 and 5. So when my children went back to school, I got my office back. But I definitely, those couple months, it was like the most uncomfortable and just like, oh, this is not working for me. So I think a lot of people are running into that right now. And so your class that you're doing, is it virtual? Is it face-to-face? What's the best way if someone wanted to check that out that they could find out more information about that?
It is going to be online. It is going to be through Zoom. It is on my website. And my website is FS for Feng Shui, fsinmotion.com. It's going to be a 2-day class. So we'll spend a good amount of time talking about what Feng Shui is not, understanding what it is and some of the fundamental concepts that help us understand how to do Feng Shui, classical Feng Shui. We'll be going over a wonderful system called 8 Mansions. 8 Mansions is fascinating because it essentially helps you understand that each person, based on when they're born, has 4, quote, good directions and bad directions and how to use them. So it's something that people can apply right away to their own homes. And if you are wanting to help someone that you love, you can use that information to help them as well. So it's got real meaningful takeaways and application right away through the class. And that's going to happen November 14th and 15th. Of course, who doesn't want to have a class in person? We all want to do this in person, but it's just overabundance of caution.
Yes.
So that people can participate nationwide.
Well, the great thing about Zoom is that, like you said, you can bring in a lot more people, and a lot of people aren't able to travel right now. So I think it's fantastic. And so we'll definitely, if you're listening or you're driving right now and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't write that down. Don't worry. It is going to be in the notes section of this podcast. So you can find all the links to Jillian's websites and everything that's going on. Well, I definitely learned something, Jillian, and I've been working with you for 2 years, and I didn't even know that there was like more stuff that I should be talking to you about. So I'm learning my lesson here as I learn more about what you do. So, if you guys have these issues, reach out to Jillian. I mean, this is a great time. I know so many people are still stuck at home. So many people are still trying to figure out what they're doing. Some people have lost their jobs. Businesses are closed. I'm sure your stress level is high. Mine was very high. It's much better now, just to let you know. So we're
Glad to hear that.
We're back down. But it's just an odd time. And so, as you mentioned, and being a woman, I typically don't ask for help. I mean, I'm just going to be honest about that. I'm like a just figure it out yourself person, because that's kind of how I was trained. So knowing about these things, I hope empowers all of you listening that we don't have to just suffer by ourselves. There are things we can do. And it's really great to hear that you can do a lot of phone consultations, even if you can't get to them. So I think
I can. And in fact, it's sort of uncommon for people to think that you can't do Feng Shui remotely, because with classical Feng Shui, with technology, there's a whole lot we can do remotely. And I've been working remotely for years, so this isn't new to me, whereas a lot of practitioners are just trying to figure out how to do it remotely. I've got this down pat. I've been doing this for a while.
Awesome. Well, for like 10 years, right? Didn't you say you've been doing it since like 2010?
Yeah, I've been working on this for over a decade. And
so now, I mean, you're an expert. We might have to say you're like master level, like we'll just move you on up there.
Thank you.
So, well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. And like I said, guys, what's cool about this is, we've been knowing each other for about 2 years. And as we're talking, I'm suddenly like, oh, well, why didn't I call you? Gosh, I didn't even think about this. So now I feel like I have even more support and knowing how best to deal with all these things in my life. So I hope you guys will check out Jillian's website, her class, and see how you can get involved. Jillian, thanks for being on the show. And as I always say, live, love, laugh, and always be your authentic self.